This is the story of the one. As a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility, he knows keeping the line up and running is a top priority. That's why he chooses Grainger. Because when a drive belt gets damaged, Grainger makes it easy to find the exact specs for the replacement product he needs. And next day delivery helps ensure he'll have everything in place and running like clockwork. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome to Tales of the Resistance, where we tell you stories of hope and rebellion, just trying to get you through these trying times. I'm Amber Hunt. Before I begin, thanks for rolling with my absence last week. I had a great birthday, not thinking about any of this. But now it's time to get back to it. We'll start with sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, because we should never stop talking about Epstein until those files are released. We owe it to the survivors who gathered at a press conference this week to share their stories, even as President Donald Trump dismissed them as a Democrat hoax. As you know, Trump has been under increasing pressure to release the so-called Epstein list, the alleged roster of high-profile clients the financier is accused of providing sometimes underage sex partners for. It's called rape. Reminder, Attorney General Pam Bondi earlier this year said the Epstein list was on her desk, ready to be reviewed, but then later said no such list exists and there's nothing more to release about the Epstein case. That decision in July is what has prompted the first controversy surrounding Trump that actually seems tough for him to swat away. On Wednesday, a parade of Epstein's victims spoke to the media, some of them going public for the first time. Lisa Phillips said survivors like her are creating their own list of Epstein associates, telling the nation to, quote, stay tuned, end quote. Among the heartbreaking stories shared, Annie Farmer described how she and her sister once gave an interview about Epstein's crimes against them, only to have their story axed under pressure from Epstein and convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell. You know, the woman who Trump just moved into a minimum security glorified summer camp. Anuska DiGiorgio told reporters she was threatened with death if she spoke. It was the birth of her daughter that finally pushed her to break her silence. Shantae Davies said Epstein's biggest brag was his friendship with Trump. He kept a framed photo of the two men on his desk. And there was more.
I live every day with PTSD. I live as a mother trying to raise my child while distrusting a world that has betrayed me. This kind of trauma never leaves you. It breaks families apart. It shapes the way we see everyone around us. But one thing is certain, unless we learn from this history, monsters like Epstein will rise again.
In the year 2000, I was taken to Jeffrey Epstein's island while on a photo shoot on a nearby island. Who I saw and what I experienced there was a glimpse into a very dark and disturbing world.
These are the stories that Trump has waved off, calling them irrelevant and insisting, quote, I think it's enough. We should talk about the greatness we're having, end quote. Chicago has officially drawn a line in the sand, or maybe in the subway breadcrumbs. Over Labor Day weekend, after 60 people were shot and 8 killed in Chicago, Trump declared the city his next stage set. Quote, we're going in, he boasted, as if deploying federal agents and National Guard troops were some kind of reality TV twist. The problem is that Chicago didn't ask for help, and its leaders are refusing to play extras in Trump's authoritarian drama. Mayor Brandon Johnson signed an executive order directing city agencies not to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. Here's Johnson explaining.
This order affirms that the Chicago Police Department will not collaborate with military personnel on police patrols or civil immigration enforcement. We will not have our police officers, who are working hard every single day to drive down crime, deputized to do traffic stops and checkpoints for the president.
In other words, Chicago cops aren't about to moonlight as ICE agents. No joint patrols, no roundups, no oops, wrong brown guy raids. Johnson even demanded that federal officers ditch their masks, strap on body cams, and actually identify themselves. You know, basic accountability, which in Trump's view counts as radical leftism. Standing shoulder to shoulder with Johnson, Governor J.B. Pritzker said that he's heard very little from Trump privately, though he has heard Trump suggest on national television that the governor should be begging him to send in the feds to clean up the city. It's only through insider information that Pritzker said he believes the president indeed plans to deploy ICE and even Texas National Guard members to Chicago.
When did we become a country where it's okay for the U.S. president to insist on national television that a state should call him to beg for anything, especially something we don't want? Have we truly lost all sense of sanity in this nation, that we treat this as normal?
He and other local officials are urging residents to document ICE activity, but stay peaceful, refusing to give Trump the violent B-roll he craves.
If someone flings a sandwich at an ICE agent, Trump will try and go on TV and declare an emergency in Chicago. I'm imploring everyone, if and when that happens, do not take the bait.
Trump naturally called the whole thing a publicity stunt, while his VP lapdog J.D. Vance whined that Democrats are more upset about troops on their streets than crime in them. Chicago's move is part of a bigger pushback as Trump tests how far he can stretch presidential powers to send in the Guard without, consent or legality. Johnson again.
We have not called for this. Our people have not asked for this. But nevertheless, we find ourselves having to respond to this. Let me be absolutely clear. This is an erratic, impulsive administration, and it's not always possible to understand and know exactly how he will move.
Spoiler alert, experts say it's unconstitutional. But since when has that ever stopped the guy? Now, as for attacks via sandwich, we here at Grab Bag Collab don't condone assault, not even if it's the hold the mayo type. But it turns out that if you hurl a Subway sub at a federal agent, you might not get indicted. At least that's what happened in the case against Sean Dunn, the guy who allegedly threw a 6-incher at a Customs and Border Protection agent in D.C. earlier this month. Despite the White House unleashing a full-blown propaganda reel of heavily armed agents frog-marching Dunn into custody, even though his lawyer says he offered to surrender peacefully, a grand jury still didn't bite. It's deja vu for the feds, who also whiffed 3 times trying to indict Sidney Reed, accused of swatting an FBI agent during an ICE inmate swap. Prosecutors eventually downgraded her case to a misdemeanor, and unless they scramble, Dunn's sandwich saga could meet the same fate. Under the Speedy Trial Act, they've got 30 days from his arrest to either refile felony charges or settle for a misdemeanor. Meanwhile, the video of Dunn's airborne hoagie went viral, making him an unlikely folk hero of the workers over billionaires, subs over Stormtroopers set. The White House insists this is deadly serious business. But here's the thing. When your authoritarian crackdown ends up hinging on a sandwich toss, maybe you're not projecting the strength you think you are.
We all know that feeling. You finally manage to get away on vacation and the worrying starts. Will that bogus "beware of dogs" sign keep your home safe? What about that fake camera you set up? And will someone finally find your old hide and key rock? That's where ADT comes in. All that stuff, it's safe-ish. It seems fine when you don't really think about it, but you know it truly doesn't work. Instead, ADT provides security solutions that keep you actually safe, giving you real peace of mind. Because vacation is supposed to be, relaxing. Don't settle for safe-ish. Visit ADT.com today to learn more.
Thinking about a home remodel but dreading the hassle? Let me put you onto something better. West Shore Home is changing the game when it comes to home remodeling. They make the whole process simple and convenient. No sketchy contractors, no endless delays. Just a smooth experience from start to finish, handled by highly trained employee installers who know exactly what they're doing. No outsourcing, no guesswork, just pros who show up and get it done right. And they don't disappear after the job's finished. West Shore Home follows up with every customer to make sure you're happy. That's part of why they've racked up over 55,000 five-star reviews from people just like you. So, if you're ready to upgrade your bath, shower, windows, doors, or floors, skip the chaos. Go to westshorehome.com, fill out the form, and let us schedule your appointment today. That's westshorehome.com. Remodeling reimagined.
Nearly 1,000 worker over billionaire protests erupted across the country over Labor Day weekend, proving once again that Trump can't squash solidarity no matter how many union contracts he torches. From Chicago to Los Angeles, from Palmer, Alaska to Freeport, Maine, and even all the way to Honolulu, workers and their allies hit the streets to say, Enough with the billionaire handouts, enough with the wage cuts, and enough with the union busting out of the White House. The AFL-CIO, backed by groups like Move On, Public Citizen, and Indivisible, helped coordinate what was basically a coast-to-coast labor revival tour. Teachers, nurses, construction workers, you name it, marched to remind Trump that the people actually keeping the lights on aren't hedge fund managers or Mar-a-Lago golf buddies. Here's Pastor Jamal Bryant speaking in Chicago, courtesy of Reuters.
Those of you who still believe in liberty and justice for all, would you make some noise right now if you still believe in it? There are more labor workers than there are billionaires. It is because of your sweat equity. It is because of your stick-to-itiveness. It's because of your focus that America is still standing. You are the true patriots. Celebrate yourselves on Labor Day.
And they had plenty to rail against. Trump's attempt to rip collective bargaining rights from 1 million federal workers, slashing contractor pay by $4 an hour, scrapping minimum wage and overtime protections for millions of care workers, and even rolling back wage protections for workers with disabilities. Because nothing screams America first like gutting the paychecks of the most vulnerable. And the people sound so pleased. Polls show unions are more trusted than either political party right now, which probably explains why the rallies buzzed with the energy of a movement that isn't going anywhere. As one organizer put it, this was just the beginning. Workers are tired of watching billionaires cash in while they're told to be grateful for scraps, and they're not shutting up about it. Several hundred protesters also took to Lower Manhattan this week for what organizers dubbed the March on Wall Street. And let's just say it wasn't exactly a ticker tape parade for Trump's anti-DEI agenda. Reverend Al Sharpton led the charge, joined by Martin Luther King III and mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani. For the record, Sharpton also invited Mayor Eric Adams and former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who declined. Sharpton jokingly noted, "I take attendance." Now, he didn't sound so jokey when he gave a speech.
We march towards your offices because we know your address. And we're going to march and keep coming to you until we turn the economic inequality in this country around. We're not going back.
The march was aimed squarely at the administration's crackdown on diversity, equity, and inclusion policies and its creeping attempts to seize control of policing in Democratic-run cities. Sharpton didn't mince words. He warned that the White House's attacks on DEI were just the warm-up act for something darker, federal takeovers of cities led by Black mayors. After all, Trump has already sent troops into Los Angeles and tried to muscle Washington, D.C.'s police force away from Mayor Muriel Bowser. Funny how law and order always seems to translate to silence communities of color. The march drew people from as far as Kentucky, Florida, and Michigan, all converging on the symbolic heart of American finance to say, we see the billionaire backers pulling the strings, and we're not buying it. In one corner, Judge Gia Cobb in D.C. just KO'd Trump's attempts to slap fast-track deportations on millions of long-term residents with zero due process, calling the policy skimpy, unconstitutional, and dangerous. Her ruling stands undelayed, telling the administration, nope, not today. Meanwhile, in the other corner, because apparently one courtroom just isn't enough, an appeals court slammed most of Trump's emergency tariff hustle as illegal too, and a 7-4 smackdown, the judges ruled he exceeded his authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. The tariffs will stick around long enough for the administration to beg the Supreme Court for mercy. What's the takeaway? The judiciary just served up a double whammy. No, you can't deport folks without a fair hearing, and no, you also can't slap billions in taxes on imports without Congress's say-so. It's like the courts decided to declare executive overreach Not today, Satan. And lastly, we'll play out with this song by Stephen Wilhelm that made the rounds over my time off and made me chuckle when I finally saw it. I wonder if you can guess the title.
Trump is a punk-ass bitch. Trump is a punk-ass bitch. Trump is a punk-ass bitch.
This has been Tales of the Resistance, a production of Grab Bag Collab, which you can support more directly by going to patreon.com/grabbagcollab. I'm your host, Amber Hunt. Amanda Rossman produced.